and gentlemen, I think we're ready to start the evening's program. I hope you enjoyed your meal. It was provided by Primrose, and they did it last year for you, and didn't they do a great job? Mark Charnas is their new head, I don't know what they call him, chef, I guess. Is Mark back there? Have Mark come out here. He may lose his job and then maybe somebody will need him. So, you are going to keep him? Well, he has moved around. Bring him out here. We need to see what he looks like. And that is not Mark Charnas coming through the door. Nor is that Mark Charnas going through the door.
Let me get him.
It can't be that tough. God, Mark, get up here. We want people to know who you are. Come up here. Why don't you come up to the mic? We got all night. Thanks, Mark. Yeah. Randy's already mentioned he gets 8 minutes, Mark gets all night. Okay, all right. All right, now this is supposed to be a fun night for you, and we intend to make it a fun night for you. I have 45 minutes of introductions, and then we will get into, well, once I start introducing, everybody gets introduced, and then if you don't get introduced, you can raise your hand, I will introduce you. So let's just start with that. But let's first of all thank the sponsors that helped provide this for you, and you've all got information on your table that has to do with our 4 speakers tonight, which we're very proud of them, but we used to read their bios to you, and then when we realized that nobody was taking notes, we thought, okay, they can't remember these bios, so you read them, and we're not going to go over those bios. So you're going to know what these people have done and what they're able to do and what they're still doing. So in the meantime, our special sponsors was Ameriprise Financial Lehman Capital Management Group. Are they, Representative. Wait a minute. Very good. Turn around and stay poised for a minute or less at the camera. You're not, a full turnaround. You're only half. There you go. Okay, this is for posterity. You're going into the archives, and 1,000 years from now, somebody's going to be looking at you thinking, who is that guy? Okay, but it's still important. Okay, very good. No, you can sit down. I got in front of the camera, I couldn't turn you with moral companies. Is anybody, where's Carol? Is Carol and moral people here? No moral people. I don't mean immoral, I just... Marion Industrial Center, Teddy Graham is in Wichita. Wilson Bohannon Company. Anybody here from Wilson? Where? Karen. Even though you were late. All right. Now wait. You have to look at the camera. You just looked at us. This is ridiculous. You look at the camera. John, have we got him? Very good. Now when I do introduce you, please turn around. And this does go into the archives, and we want you on the tape. And hopefully it'll help us sell more tapes too. So, Fahey Bank. Anybody here from Fahey? Sims Brothers, Nucor Steel, Primrose Retirement. How many people here from Primrose? Where are you? Now, what I'd like you to do is stand up and turn around and look at the Harding Telecom people. Everybody from Primrose, stand up and look at the Telecom people back there. You're not standing. And speaking of Primrose, Sandra Rowe is the new director of Primrose, Wayne Rowe's wife from OSU. So if Sandra is, hey, Danny? Everybody's got a plug in their ear. Okay. But anyway, Sandra, I bring her out, and we want to introduce her and put her on the film. And our video people tonight is from Harding High School, the Telecom people. John Rose, the director. And we got 4 young, John, what did I say? What did I say? What difference does it make? John Mullins. John Mullins. Where I got Roe, I have no idea. The new director of Primrose, Sandra Wood. That's where I got Roe. Okay, John Mullins. Now that's on the tape, right, John? But you cannot come in front of the camera because you're running. All right. Then we have to thank media people for making this thing so successful tonight. And we do this every year. And one of the key media people that we have here, and she's probably in the back too. Where's Brenda? Ah, Brenda. Brenda Donegan. Stand up, Brenda, and look at the camera. Good enough, John? Every year, Brenda writes an article for the paper. Every year, that article is the success of this event that we're holding. The first year we did this 2 days before the event, we had 35 people signed up. 35. By the way, am I coming all right? I now can hear myself. But we had 35 people. I say to Howie, we're not doing this. It's 35 people. You got to be kidding. He goes, we're doing it. Ooh. Brenda writes an article. 2 days later, we have 165 people. And it's been going like this every year. So Brenda, you're a key part of what we're doing. Also, the Marion Star has given us tremendous play. Is anyone here from the Star? But they still treat our organization very good for the distribution of this information. And then one of our panelists tonight, Jeff Ruth, has had us on 3 or 4 times. And that, obviously, the man's listened to all over the world, so that created a lot. Now, we have people that display around the room, and they'll be here when you're done. And if you haven't looked at them, they've gone through a lot of work to put up their tables. And so when you're done, you don't have to rush right out of here. Go and browse the tables if you haven't already done it. But Randy Winland has shared a table with Mike Perry. And Randy wanted me to say that, Randy, are you over there? Way over. He's got a handout for you that he thinks will be very interesting. So go over there and take that home with you. Gail Martin, is Gail Martin here? Gail Martin usually is here, but, oh, she's not only usually here, she's really here. Gail Martin. And Gail, where's your tape? Gail, you need to turn around. That's Gail, there you go.
It's over there.
Okay, Gail Martin's table, head of our Historical Society, wonderful lady. Has a business also, don't you, on the side?
Yeah.
What is it, a log cabin? What do you do?
Natives in Harmony. It's a native plant nursery.
Oh, very good. Where is it?
Marengo.
Marengo. How far from here?
35 minutes.
Okay. Well, I'm giving
How many
you
miles?
some play, so I expect, a little better price on a native plant. Sherry Hall from Harding Home. Is Sherry here? Where's Sherry? Sherry, don't look at me. Look at the camera, kid. Sherry, you're doing a great job with the Harding Home, and we thank you. And Linda Denise and Gary Barnhart with the Huber Museum. Where are they? Where are they? Ah, turn around. Look at the camera. And Carol Neidhart. Marion's Underground Railroad.
Yeah.
Now, I have to say something. Let me look at my notes here, Carol. Just be patient with me. No, I'm good. I'm good. Be patient. Carol, help me out. His mother is here tonight, and it's her birthday. And Carol's mother and the Withrows, back in the 40s, double dated at Meridell. They didn't double date, but they just met as a group at Meridell and checked each other out to see who was dating who. And Mary Ellen ended up with Norm, and I hope you did as well. Happy birthday. speaking of birthdays, we have Pat Vaughn sitting right over here, and she's a very, very dear friend of mine, as is her husband Dick Vaughn, and it's happy birthday to you. And there's probably a lot more. So give Pat, stand up. But to me, the key of keys tonight is the 65 years that Marion and Norm Withrow have been married. So Norm, stand up. 65 years. Norm, were you able to get that watch fixed that we worked on? You can come back. Norm comes in, he's got this pocket watch he needs me to help him with, and neither one of us can figure out what to do, and the store was busy. But anyways, come back, Norm. All right. Now, we have other dignitaries here tonight. Obviously, a very important person to me in the community is our mayor. And so Scott Schertzer, if you would stand up and we have Commissioner Dan Russell. But for the first time tonight, his dad is with him, Francis. Would he stand up and face the camera? Turn around, Francis. Help him out there, Dan. I want his face on the film. Is that not wonderful? Very good. We have Commissioner Kenny Stuyvesant with us tonight. Kenny? We have, no, say go.
Yeah.
Were you going to say something?
No, I just want to make sure you got me on the camera.
If you want to stay afterwards, we'll film you for as long as you'd like to be filmed. And then we have Judge Bob Fergali here. Bob, stand up, face the camera. And we have Joan Casotis, who is our county auditor. Where's Joan? Right here, Joan. We have our previous mayor, Jack Kellogg. Jack, stand up and... Then we have some really old ex-commissioners with us tonight that are really wonderful people. One's Merle Leishi. Merle, stand up, face the camera, buddy. I got to play off of Merle. He's looking for a Tanzanite. I think maybe I'll get him. Okay, and then we have Johnny Watkins sitting right back here. Stand up, John. Face the camera. And we're fortunate enough to have the president of our chamber here, Pam Hall. Pam, stand up. Put your pretty good dress on. Now, Carol Neidhart, I clear down at the end of my notes, I see Marion Dune, and then all the rest of that stuff that I was talking about. And also, kind of a rascal kind of a lady is with us tonight, was our first city councilwoman, and that's Norma Jacobs. Where's Norma? Where's Norma? Norma's not one of the taller people with us tonight, but she's one of the more vibrant. No, you're not getting old, Norma. All right, let me see how I'm doing here. All right. Okay. Now I want to introduce Diane Watson. Where's Diane? Diane is going to come and share with you our board members at CBB, how and I used to be on there, and this is how this got going. And we're still very, very fond of Diane as a director and the current board. So, Diane.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you to everybody for coming tonight. This event could not happen without you, and of course the panel, and each year we come up with new people for the panel, so it's been pretty easy. And these two gentlemen that have been the planners, they were originally on our board, and it wouldn't have happened without them. So I would say Lowell Thurston and Howie Smith needs a big thank you too. And he's almost introduced all my board anyhow. So I'll go down the list real quick, but I'd like to introduce my Associate Director, Bev Watt, first. She is the one that helps keep our office open, and she's clear back there in the back. And probably most of the people that are going to stand up are going to be back there at that table. Van Cressup from Shamrock Vineyard is the chair of our board. Gene Obenauer is our treasurer from Custom Professional Accounting. Candy Tripp is our secretary? Vice chair, that's right. Sorry. Marion County Fair. She's from the Marion County Fair Board. Utrini Patel is our secretary. And Utrini couldn't make it tonight. She's from Country and Sweets. And Mayor Scott Schertzer is on our board. Mary Hamby is from Fairfield Inn. She's not here tonight. Pam Finnegan is from Steve's Dakota Grill. Sherry Hall from the Harding Home. Brenda Donegan from Primrose. Barb Bell from Tri Rivers. Kathy Wang from Goodwill was not here tonight. They have their annual meeting tonight too. Ann Russell is our county commissioner representative. Pat Case from Great Impressions couldn't make it tonight. Don Perrin from Grand Prairie Market and the flea market out on 23 couldn't make it tonight. And then Deb Price is with the Ohio State Bank, could not make it tonight either. So that is our board. Thank you.
Okay, two more comments before we get into our program. Barb Bell stood up for Tri Rivers. I don't know if you've been reading the paper or know what's going on out at Tri Rivers right now with the robotics center that they put together, but this is one of the best things that's ever happened to Marion. It's what's going on at Tri Rivers right now, so pass that levy. Let's keep it going. And then we have one person running tonight that I see. Give Barb a hand, give Tri Rivers a hand. Chuck Spielman, we're thinking of him. We're rooting for him. And we have one person here tonight that I see, Scott Kreider here is running as an independent for Marion City Council. What, did I say something wrong? What did I say? You're better off as an independent. Too late. Okay, you've read the bios on the table, you know what's going down, and so our first speaker tonight is a retired, and you read it, he's a retired school teacher, but he's a tremendous historical person with what he has to present, and so with that tonight, we're going to start our program with Randy Winland.
Thank you. For the 25 people who left the audience that were not introduced so far tonight, oh well. I'm going to move over to the side. For those of you that are sitting over here, I apologize. I don't make a real good window. I have a much better door. We're going to be having a slide presentation up here, so if you could dim the lights, please. I'm not a historian. I'm a collector of memories, and if I were to think of my mind, I'm not thinking of my mind as a textbook, I would think of it as a scrapbook. I have lots of little scraps of things in here. There's a whole lot of stuff that's missing. There's also a whole lot of things in here I don't always remember sometimes. What I'm going to do tonight is to share with you some memories of Marion as seen through postcards. I am a postcard collector. I enjoy that. So this is some memories of Marion as seen through postcards. First of all, I bring you greetings from Marion, Ohio. Let's stop at the City Hall and Fire Department. There's Chief McFarland out front with his horse old Matt. They're getting ready to go to a fire. This was also the City Hall for many years. We're going to travel up Main Street. We're going to travel Center Street first, I guess. And we're going down the Huber block. This building was built in 1903 by Edward Huber. McLean's Furniture was one of the first tenants before Gilbert Phillips took it over. The building is unique in that it has a center skylight or sky tube down to the top of it that allows light into the center of the building for the interior rooms. If you go up Main Street, we can see all the merchants have their awnings out to protect their buildings from the afternoon sun. It also was a real enjoyable thing for kids to do. They'd run along, grab one of the awnings, see how far they could swing, how loud they could make the merchants complain. We could do our banking at the Marion National Bank, one of the most beautiful buildings in Marion, directly across from the courthouse, where it was torn down to make a parking lot. Speaking of the courthouse, we're seeing it here before the steps on the south side are removed, and also while the sycamore trees are still in place. If we're going to go there, many of you know this, one of the things I find fascinating about the courthouse are the series of faces. There's two series of faces, the ages of man and the races of man. Way up high. There's also all kind of gargoyles and all kind of neat stuff. Next time you're down at the courthouse, see if you can find the faces or the races of man and the ages of man. If we need to stay somewhere, we can stop at the Hotel Marion and spend the night. I think I'd like to get the American plan because that included meals with your overnight stay. If we didn't want to go there, we could go to the Pilgrim Inn. The Pilgrim Inn eventually became known as the Taft Hotel. It was right north of the courthouse. If you can see the railing around the top, that was an iron railing. It was used as a rope and pulley system to take bags up to the top of the hotel. The bellboy pulled up, swinging around somewhere, they take it in through the windows. Some people might have had the opportunity to stay all night in this place, and hopefully not. I mean the one on the right, which is the county jail. But Hotel Majestic on the left-hand side had at least 7 different names during its time as a building, and also was included as a city hospital for a while. If we wanted to do an education, we could have gone down to Central High School. Right behind it, in the upper left-hand corner, you can see the cupola of the old Union School. Wasn't that a beautiful building? Just right here, pretty much so. Some of us might have tried to go to church here, but if we did, we'd been in trouble because this actually was a school. This is the Forest Lawn School, with its bell tower, stained glass window. It looked much more like a church, in my opinion. This building was torn down, and on the lot where it was at, the very architecturally stylish and beautiful Marion City Schools Administration building was built. Now, sometimes people wonder how we had color postcards before we had color photography. I'm going to show you how. A black and white photo was taken. And now, you can't see it very well on here, but on the back of the photo, the instructions were written. You were to color the brick red brick, trees would be green, pears would be pink, sidewalk is to be gray, slate, or whatever it might be. And then with that, this is the postcard that came out. So before you had color photography, you used black and white photography with instructions on how to make a lithographic postcard. Most of these were done in Europe, and then they were sent back over here. Also is how they removed all the telephone lines. And by the way, a lot of postcards here tonight aren't mine, but they also are other people in the audience. This is one from Mike Perry, Mike and Linda Perry, postcard collectors. Richard Carey's here tonight. There's a lot of people in Marion that collect postcards, and I'd like to thank them for sharing some of their cards with us tonight. If we need to take a rest, we could have gone through these gates and taken a nice long rest. Or we could go to the federal building and watch our federal employees at work. Imagine that concept. If you take a quick look at this on the right-hand side of the building, you'll notice there are 2 windows, a door and 2 more windows. Now look at it. We had a huge addition put on the post office, and it's almost impossible to tell when that addition was put on, but they doubled the size of the building. Our community wanted to take care of their orphans, so Benjamin Waddell built this structure out on the Marion Waldo Pike. It cost $60,000. He built it in 1902. He also built the Waddell Home for Aged People. Dr. Sawyer Sanitarium down on Main Street, a very popular building. This is before it had a large addition put on. Dr. Sawyer was successful because he then built this larger sanitarium out on White Oaks Road. It had beautiful gardens, a lake, and its own nurse training school. When he wasn't busy taking care of Warren and Flossie, he ran White Oaks Sanitarium. Speaking of being successful, George King certainly was. He built his family home, Etowah, and it had beautiful gardens behind it. The opening night ceremony for Etowah, people were ferried across Lake Lafayette, as it was called, in gondolas, and they were able to get through the gardens and so forth and explore Etowah. People think of Marion as being the power shovel, the shovels being our historic enterprises. Actually, limestone was our first major industry. This is a crusher plant for limestone. Marion was actually called Lime City. We had Lime City baseball team, Lime City Business College, and for many years we were known as Lime City. Edward Huber came to Marion to have a source of lumber for his hay rake, Huber Manufacturing on Greenwood Street. This is one of the employees working in there. Again, it's not real clear here. There's a large pulley belt system running the mill. I learned a lot. I've been working on a project, and I learned a lot about Marion doing it. One of the things I learned is that the Marion steam shovel and power shovel make power shovels, obviously. They also make cannons. They made 12 cannons at the end of World War I, and these cannons could shoot an 800-pound projectile using 420 pounds of powder 30 miles. And this is, again, one of Mike Perry's postcards. But they were 12 of these built in 1919, 1920. This is an unusual postcard. That gentleman's face is actually a little chain, and you tap the back of the card to make the chain move, make his face change. I think he must have been pretty happy he just got a rush order. We had other manufacturers in Marion, including the Osgood Company and the Fairbanks Company. This is my all-time favorite postcard. This is such a rare card. This is a bunkhouse that is floating down a canal. Fairbanks Company made dredges, and so they had a bunkhouse for their employees. They would pull down the canal as they were digging it out, and then the people could just stay right there. That is one of Richard Carey's postcards. That's just a fantastic card. We had the Susquehanna Silk Mill with their Sawtooth skylights out on Joseph Street where they manufactured silk fabric. And we had the Starr Copeland Shoe Manufacturing Company. And these young men, probably professional models today, they actually were employees of the Starr Copeland Shoe Company, were manufacturing shoes that were exported to Europe. That was over on the corner of David and Darius Street where a bulk oil plant is now. If you came through Marion in World War I, you stopped at the Red Cross Canteen and get a hot meal and a donut. And we need to talk about entertainment just a little bit. One of the biggest places in Marion was the Grand Theater. It burned around the early 1900s, and all that was left of it was a finial. Again, it's hard to see it on this, but the Elks bought the building, they rebuilt it using the shell of the building. That postcard was up there, that statue was up there. It's missing. I always wonder if maybe it's somewhere in western Marion County buried in the barn also. You talk about theater. Sorry. Talk about theaters, you talk about the Palace Theater. Beautiful, how thankful we are to say that. I'm out of time, I got the signal, I want to go, Diane's about 3 or 4 more. This lady wasn't very happy. She wanted to go to the Marion County Fair, but now she named us a little sliding postcard. We had the Marion Bands, Elephants on Parade, the Marion Bill Club. All you had to do was be named Bill to join this club. There was a Walter chapter and a Marion chapter, Marion County Bill Club. I don't think this Bill was able to join this. Billy Goat wasn't able to join. He made an awful nice picture in my last one. If you're interested in learning more about Marion's history and postcards, a book is going to be published on November the 18th. It has 200 pictures of Marion with captions and information about Marion. It's all postcards, all proceeds from it, all royalties from it, go to the Marion County Historical Society. We do have order forms available over here this evening. Again, if you're interested in Marion's history or postcards, please consider purchasing one of the books. Again, all proceeds go to the Historical Society. Thank you very much.
Jay, before you leave, I forgot to introduce you. Jay Shoup, our service director. Randy. You can go now. Did the Bill Club ring a bell with you, Mayor Scott? Did it ring a bell? Yeah. Okay, Marion, before you, come on up here, kiddo, but before you start your talk, but I would like to ask you if you read your bio, you have had tremendous number of accolades afforded you. What is the most favorite? One standout. Don't mention anything but your favorite. Of all of the rewards you've received, what's your favorite?
I don't know.
Okay. Don't worry about it.
Probably, I think the Donald L. Scantlebury Award was at a time when it really meant a lot to me.
Very good.
Yeah.
You can read about the Scantlebury Award right there. Scatterbelly or whatever.
I certainly don't.
Well, somebody here knew what it was. I can think of it. Thank you, Lowell. I hope I can capture the moment here. Well, I want to thank the committee for inviting me, and also it's an honor to be on the panel here with these distinguished gentlemen. Well, it all started back in 1969 when 2 teachers asked me to run for Elgin School Board. There were no women on the board, and I researched it and I decided to run, and I won. And I was able to inject the woman's point of view on the board. Next, I was county treasurer. And I think back, I was the first woman to run for county treasurer. And you know, they try to disqualify you when you're running for office, try to make people believe you can't do the job. Well, they said I couldn't open the vault door. Well, I won, and I was able to open the vault door. And I was there for a couple of months, and one morning I couldn't open the vault door. And the cleaning lady had washed down the vault door, and the tumblers had locked, and we had to call a locksmith. So, but anyway, I tried to make it easier for taxpayers to pay their taxes. I increased the locations where they could do that so that they could return the money to the schools faster. And when I started, there was only one central collection site for tax payments. And actually, I computerized while I was there. One of my responsibilities was to invest the county's funds. I wanted to get the best investment rate for the people of Marion County, and I asked for the banks to give me bids, and all of the bids came back the same. I pulled the county's money and invested it outside of the county for a short period of time. I then requested the bids again, and the results were different. They were competitive. Well, 6 years later, I became state treasurer. I was again faced with investing money. The same bank had invested the state account since 1923, and this was 1983. The account was put out for bids, and as a result went to other banks. The president of the bank the money was taken from was the owner of the Dispatch and Channel 10. As a result, the Dispatch was the only newspaper that did not endorse me in future elections. And I very rarely appeared on Channel 10. As state treasurer, I created programs to help the people of Ohio, establishing a program to help small businesses create jobs. And then agriculture was added to that program. It was called the Withrow Plan of Linked Deposits. When I left the treasurer's office, my programs had awarded $616.3 million to over 2,000 businesses and $910 million to agriculture. Another program I created was Star Ohio, where we invested local government funds for them. Schools, counties, colleges, and universities all took part in this. After 12 years in the state treasurer's office, I was selected to be United States treasurer. When I had been there a few days, I asked, who invests the money? The answer was, we don't have any money. Of course, I don't think they were kidding, but actually the Secretary of the Treasury manages that. As United States Treasurer, I had oversight of the manufacturing of the money, the Bureau of Engraving and Printing, and the mints. There were 2 bureaus of engraving and printing in Washington, D.C. and Fort Worth, Texas. There were 5 mints, Philadelphia and Denver, where the coins that you use every day were made, San Francisco and West Point, who made the commemorative coins that are for the collectors, and West Point and Fort Knox for storage. There were approximately 5,300 employees in all of these facilities. Manufacturing currency and coins is not unlike manufacturing other goods. Labor unions, contracts, and other common facets of manufacturing are not uncommon to the industry. When the new $100 bill was released, and it was released all over the world on the same day, the law enforcement agencies, the State Department, the Federal Reserve, and the Treasury Department all worked together to make the introduction of the updated currency smooth. It was an example of government at its best. The currency had not been redesigned since 1928. I also marketed the savings bonds, but you know, I could not have done any of this if the people of Marion County had not elected me back in the beginning. The projects I was involved in were the state quarters program and the redesign of the currency. And then Congress decided to pass a law that said we must make another dollar coin. So Sacagawea was born. Another project was the savings fund poster contest. It was for school children in the 4th, 5th, and 6th grades. And this contest was held in each state, and then the winners went on to the national. I was a judge for 7 years in that contest, along with Charles Schultz, Tony Randall, and Alexander Julian, and some others. These posters were then displayed all over the United States to advertise bonds and to encourage people to buy them. One of the things that Treasury wanted me to talk about was saving. Our saving rate in the United States at that time was between 3% and 4%. Other major countries were much higher. Japan was 14.9%, and France was 13%. And I made a concentrated effort to inform adults and school children about saving, to make it a practice so it would become a habit. When I talked to school children, they would ask me questions. One boy one day asked me, "Who's in the cage on the back of the penny?" I said, "That's Abraham Lincoln, and that's the Lincoln Memorial." Another asked me what I was doing when I was in the 3rd grade or when I was 8 years old. And that's how old he was. And I said I was in the 3rd grade and probably learning how to write my name, which was pretty important. They seemed to listen to me because I had my name on the money, and that impressed them. While I was U.S. Treasurer, so many people came from Marion to visit. I had a chance to show them around and tell them about the history that was in Treasury. Only 39 other people had ever had that job. The pride you had when you went to work every morning and entered that building with the columns and the marble floors that had carried the trust of the people with the visible symbols of our government. The color guards, the flags, the eagle, and the ceremonies. It really stirred your patriotism. It was a fantastic job, and it was an honor to represent all of you. Thank you.
Very good job, Marion. Hi, Jay. How's everything outside? Is it raining? Randy had said I had introduced all but 25 people, so now we're down to 24, but I have 10 more. There are 10 people here tonight. If you just please stand that have been up on this panel, please stand. And we're talking about Mike Perry and Jack Kellogg and Bill Young and George Casotis and Kenzo Clutter and Carol Neidhart and Norma Jacobs and John Watkins and Howard Smith and Sally Burns. Pretty good, huh? Speaking of Bill Young, who was on the panel in 2007, and by the way, Bill, that's the most people here from that year. It must have been the younger group. Bill's got some people here tonight that are his guests, and he wondered if we were going to give a prize for people that came from the longest distance. We've never thought of that, so no, there is no prize. We do have people here from East Lansing, Michigan. Where are you? Right here, right here. And it's Bill Salanders and Louise, but she was the daughter of Ray Conyers. Now, since rail conies. Well, I don't get any of those right, so it doesn't matter. But since we're taping tonight, would you two please stand for East Lansing and stand up and show what it's like not to get a gift? See, they still smile. It doesn't matter. As long as you get some publicity, it's great. Okay, now, this young man, this gentleman, and he is a young man, Gary Iams, became part of Linda's and my life when our kids were very young in school, and he started, I hope I'm saying this right, Gary, the Suzuki program at Harding, and our kids went through that, and so this guy's been a dynamo for 30 years as far as I'm concerned, but I think he's one of the key driving forces in the Marion community right now, and that's Gary Iams.
Thank you, Lowell. That's very kind of you. First of all, I want you to know what an honor it is for me to be up here this evening. I've had the opportunity to attend a number of the other Capture the Moment dinners, and have enjoyed the thoughtful and entertaining ways in which the speakers have presented their stories. And we are certainly indebted to people like Lowell and Linda Thurston, Tarla and Amar Purewal, Howie Smith, Brenda Donegan, Diane Watson, and others for having the vision and the foresight to help preserve the rich heritage of our community. Tonight I want to tell you from the perspective of my own life the story of Marion's musical heritage by highlighting two remarkable organizations, the Lecture Recital Club and the Marion Civic Chorus. Marion has long been a community that has valued the arts. Articles, reports, photos, and advertisements from a variety of resources document an active cultural life in our community that dates back to at least the late 19th century and into the 20th century. Most churches boasted choirs and a variety of musical ensembles. Orchestras and European-style singing societies were popular with both the participants and their audiences. Opera houses thrived and community bands were very common. Marion was indeed a community that enjoyed gathering together in many venues and on many occasions to enjoy music. One year in particular brought many of our musical organizations into the spotlight. During that amazing summer of 1920, America appeared on our doorstep as the Republican candidate for the president, Warren G. Harding, conducted his famous front porch campaign. Dignitaries, celebrities, common folks from all walks of life visited Marion by the thousands. And not only did they get a chance to hear the stirring words of the future president, but they also were entertained by scores of local musicians, including soloists, bands, singing societies, and all manner of musical ensembles. What an exciting time that must have been. It was also in 1920 that the Lecture Recital Club of Marion, Ohio was born. Organized during the winter and spring of 1920, the club was chartered by both the Ohio Federation of Music Club and the National Federation of Music Clubs in 1921. Charter members included Griselda Davis Dunball and Miss Grace Durfee. Other prominent Marion names such as Baldoff, Guthrie, and Phillips also appeared on the roster. The club's first program book boasted 61 members. A club chorus was organized, and all club members were assigned to membership categories that included voice, piano, and various instruments. That first season also set the precedent of designing programs based on a wide variety of musical periods, styles, and composers. That's a format that the club still uses today. By the mid-1930s, music had become an important part of the curriculum in Marion's public schools, led by outstanding teachers like Homer Huffman and L.G. Jones, the supervisor of music and the director of Harding's renowned a cappella choir. To help promote music in the schools, a junior lecture recital club was organized with its own slate of officers and a complete schedule of meetings. Members of that junior club in those early years included names like Morris Klein, George Lane, Rosie Manzo Doria, my Aunt Virginia Young Griffiths, and my mother Jane Young Iams. WMRN went on the air in 1940 and immediately began a long-standing tradition of local programming. Marion Entertains was a live weekly musical program created and hosted by Griselda Davis Dunball, a charter member of the Lecture Recital Club. Her programs featured musicians from throughout the area and often included my mother and my Aunt Jenny, accompanied by their friend Rosie Manzo Doria. In 1935, singers from several of our local churches and other organizations had joined forces to perform Handel's The Messiah, with L.G. Jones as the director. By 1941, the desire to establish a permanent community-based chorus resulted in the creation of the Marion Civic Chorus. The first performance by the newly formed organization took place on December 21st, 1941, when L.G. Jones conducted the Messiah broadcast live over WMRN from Epworth United Methodist Church. In the early years, the Marion Civic Chorus appeared in a variety of community events, but the Messiah, performed as a gift to the community each December, soon became the focal point of that organization. Those early performances featured both local and out-of-town soloists, along with piano and organ accompaniment. L.G. Jones continued as the music director through 1945. A small orchestra was added in 1947, and the practice of employing professional soloists and orchestra members has continued to this day. Throughout the years, the chorus has been blessed to work with a number of outstanding music directors. One of the most popular was Ohio Wesleyan University professor Gordon Olmsted, who appeared as the bass soloist for a number of years and as music director for 17 years. And though the chorus has appeared in a number of different venues throughout the years, Epworth Methodist Church has always been considered home. I was fortunate to be born into a family that loved music. I was fascinated to hear stories about L.G. Jones and the a cappella choir and how my parents had met. Aunt Jenny and my mother remained members of the Lecture Recital Club and performed regularly. My parents belonged to our church choir, and Dad dabbled with the guitar. Gatherings with family and friends often found us around the piano or singing along with Mitch Miller and the gang. I began piano lessons with Aunt Jenny and joined the Junior Lecture Recital Club. Clarinet lessons with Ed Miller at Oakland Elementary School, and were followed by cello lessons with George Lane at Edison Junior High School. At Harding, I performed in every major musical organization. And when I earned a scholarship to Capital University Conservatory of Music in 1968, I became the first member of my family to attend college. In 1972, my dream became a reality when I joined my mentor, George Lane, on the music faculty of the Marion City Schools, beginning a career which would span 30 years. It was also in 1972 that I began my long association with the Marion Civic Chorus, when I was asked to play cello in the orchestra. I continued in that role until 1983, when I was elected to the chorus board of directors and gave up my seat in the orchestra to my sister and began to sing with the chorus. In 1989, I was appointed music director, and on December 1st of this year at Epworth United Methodist Church, I will celebrate my 25th and final year on the podium when the Marion Civic Chorus and Orchestra presents the 73rd annual performance of Handel's The Messiah. I'm so proud to have been associated with such a remarkable community organization. The fact that venerable organizations like the Lecture Recital Club and the Marion Civic Chorus continue to thrive is a testament to the strong continuing support for music and the arts in our community. Among others, the Marion Concert Band, the Marioneers, the Medical Singers, the Palace Theater, all demonstrate the cultural vitality of our community. I am grateful for the opportunities that have been provided by our rich musical heritage, embodied so importantly in the Lecture Recital Club and the Marion Civic Chorus. Thank you.
Very well presented, Gary. When you say you sang in the chorus, what? Tenor, bass, alto? I look at you as more of a director, though, personally, than a singer. Well, we're very proud to have you in our society. And Marion's on the upswing, by the way, folks, right now. So we're coming back, and things are really great. And we got a good leader sitting right here. Now we also got a good radio announcer right over here, 1940 since, or 1490 since 1940. And all I can think right now is you're going to come to the podium as Steve Miller is wishing he'd never left WMRN. Is that right? Steve, it could have been you sitting here. Steve was 1 year with Jeff. What year, Steve? 81. And so Howie brought him up here from Columbus just to Look at his buddy Jeff Ruth. Now, the only thing I'm curious about you, young man, is I never heard of Dr. Boogie until tonight. And so if you would just can what you were going to say and do a little Dr. Boogie for us, we'll be fine. Oh, that's Jeff Ruth, by the way.
He got smart. He knew how much we made in radio, so he got in with the FAA. So moved to Minneapolis and was up there for many years back in Ohio. So good to see you again. Just to go off script a little bit, Dr. Boogie. My very first radio job was at a station in northern Kentucky. I was living in Cincinnati, and I was working evenings. This is back 78, 79 during the disco era, and I played the Platters. We had a guy named Weird Willie. Weird Willie worked midnight to 5:30, 6 in the morning. I came in one morning, somebody was on vacation, so I came in one morning, and the station was on, it was Route 27, which would be pretty well-traveled area. And had a big picture window, and the window was shot out. And I walked in, and Weird Willie had a gun next to him. Weird Willie ran the local record store and drug emporium, I guess. And in exchange for us paying him to work overnight, he got on and plugged his chauffeur, his business for 6 hours. And he was on the air one night, and a couple people drove by and they took a couple of shots at him. And it's like, I'm not getting paid enough to do this. So shortly after that, I came to Marion. Also, things not going according to plan. When Mary Ellen was introduced as treasurer in Washington, we sent Terry Cole to cover the story. And of course, we promoted it, for a month. Terry live in Washington. Got there the day before and checked in. Everything was fine. Well, this was back about the time the cell phones were just coming into prominence. How many different radio, TV networks do you think were there? Hundreds, probably there. Well, we couldn't get a hold of Terry till 20 to 2. She got inducted at noon, or introduced at noon. So every 2 minutes, like, hope to hear from Terry real soon. We'll be checking in with Terry. Wasn't anything he could do about it. There were just so many people that called. WMRN went on the air. It was December 23rd, 1940, 1:15 in the afternoon. WMRN, we've heard it either stands for What Marion Really Needs or Marion Radio News. We're not real sure, it could be something else, but those are the two that we've heard of. Went on at 1:15 in the afternoon. Very first song we ever played was I Dream of Jeannie with the Light Brown Hair. Why that was played, I don't know. Madge Guthrie was the first voice that you heard after that song, kind of welcoming Marion to the radio station. Even back then, a lot of news, weather, sports, community events, fashion, a lot of farm reports and so forth. The first general manager or owner we have is Bob Mason. Bob actually kind of owned I think it was about 53% of the station. His brother Frank owned about 47%. Frank was actually vice president of NBC in New York. So he really had a background in major radio programming. He would come to Marion about every 6 or 8 weeks for the first year or so, checking on Bob, make sure that things were going well. First year or so, a little tough to get advertisers. In fact, there were a couple of occasions where Bob had to mortgage his furniture or take a loan out to pay his employees. And Frank, about 6 months after the station had been on the air, Frank came to Marion, basically told Bob he had 1 week to get some financing or we're going to pull the plug on WMRN. And it wasn't discovered or found out till many years later that Madge Guthrie's husband, Howard, actually loaned Bob the money to kind of keep WMRN on the air. Found out it was in the $50,000 range, maybe a little bit more, which in 1941 that was a lot of money. And it was like, hey, pay me back when you can. So that's kind of how WMRN got as successful as we were. A couple of the names you may remember: Jim Grainer, who was sports director for a number of years. Jim went on to Cleveland, became voice of the Cleveland Browns, Cleveland Indians. Rod Selling, many of you know. Rod was only at WMRN for about 3 or 4 months. He worked evenings, and he would write scripts while he was technically on the air. He would go home every night, stay up till 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning typing scripts, and every morning he would get down, meet the mailman, deliver a script, and some of those Twilight Zone episodes might have been written here in Marion. Started the Little Brown Jug Network in 1943. We broadcast the Brown Jug up until the early 2000s. Bob sold the station in the mid-1960s to a gentleman out of Detroit who brought in at that time Art Martin. And you remember Art? Art was the general manager and station owner from mid-60s till right about 1980 when he and his wife were out Saturday night at the country club having dinner and dancing, got home, said he didn't feel well, and within a few minutes he had passed away of a heart attack. So WMRN a short time after that was put up for sale. At that time it was bought by 3 people, one of whom a lot of you know, George Yoakum. George was the general manager. George still lives here in Marion and had a great knowledge of radio programming. Only wish I had a chance to work with George a little longer than I did. Of course, a lot of you obviously know Charlie. Charlie started in 1952. He was a security guard and a night watchman. Hard to believe that we needed a security guard at the radio station. But back then, people were actually stealing equipment and sending them to Mexico for pirate radio stations. So a lot of the equipment we had was actually very valuable. So Charlie was actually the night watchman, the security guard. Steve Stewart, when I came here, Steve was the news director. He's now up at WJR in Detroit. Roger Fisher was our sports director and our program director at the time. John Steele worked early mornings. There was a show called Orbit. Some of you will remember maybe Marge Williams, who worked the station for a number of years alongside Madge. Madge retired after 50 years of being at WMRN. But when I first came here, we had Charlie worked 5 to 7, John Steele was 7 to 9. We had another program 9 to 10. We had a 2-hour kind of a morning talk show, much like Morning Magazine. We had the music noon to 4. Another jock came on 4 to 8. I worked 8 to midnight, and we had somebody midnight to 5. At that time, we had, and up until a few years ago, we had anywhere from 30 to 40 employees. We're now down to 9, which just kind of shows you, how the trend in broadcasting is going a little bit. When I first started WMRN, played a lot of music. Johnny Mathis, Frank Sinatra, Peggy Lee, Perry Como, that kind of music. I also had, many of you will remember Stereo Marion, which we would call elevator music. And in the FM studio, we had 6 reels. Each one was about 2 hours. It was just very much of the Mantovani, the very classical type of music. And George Yoakum, this was back in the early 80s, decided, there's going to be a change in country music. And he kind of saw the vision, let's change the Stereo Marion to Buckeye Country or Hot Country or whatever you want to call it. The only problem was we did it on April 1st. And our poor receptionist for 2 days kept getting calls thinking, okay, that's enough of an April Fool's Day joke. Well, it wasn't, and kind of the rest is history as the country station continues to do very, very well. I actually started on the morning show. Charlie was there till 1981. He left. We tried a couple of other people in the morning, just never really worked out because Charlie was Charlie. He had his own unique way of doing things. Charlie came back in 1991, worked mornings for about 4 more years. He left in 1995, and that's when I started doing mornings. George had 2 ideas for programming. One was Morning Magazine, brought in Marianne Michaels. Any idea what the other one was? Radio. To this day, to this day, I say, George, what have you done? But it has become a very popular show. I figure as long as they have Tradio on the air, they'll never replace me because they could never find anybody that would want to do Tradio 5 days a week. But I enjoy it. I have a lot of fun with it. When Roger Fisher left in 1983, he left 2 weeks before the football season. They needed somebody for a week or two to do high school football, so I said I could go ahead and do it. They said just do it for a week or two, we'll find somebody else. And I guess they're still looking for somebody because I've been doing sports since 1983. Don't know exactly, but I figure I'm right about 2,500. High school football, basketball, I've done baseball, softball, volleyball, even did a soccer game one time. So that obviously is a lot of fun. I keep saying what I do beats working for a living, and it's been a great ride since 1980. So I appreciate it, and again, thank you for asking me to be on the panel tonight.
Jeff, you did a really great job, but let me just ask you, if you had to choose between Tradio and sports broadcasting, which would you pick?
Slight edge to the
For a man that enjoys doing Tradio, I really admire you. Oh, boy. Okay, how many remember Pinky Lee? Isn't that great? I work with a bunch of young people. They don't know Pinky Lee. They don't know Herb Schreiner. They don't know anything about the really good stuff that came back in the 40s and the 50s. So I'm trying to educate them. Okay, now, to conclude our evening, we always end in a flourish with the dynamic Howie Smith. We've been friends for a lot of years. This community is blessed to have this man with us running Wilson Bohannon Lot Company. He's one of the premier, literally premier business heads, business thinkers in our community, and so we all look up to Howie. So Howie, you're up, buddy.
Just think about this evening, think about 8 years ago, this is our 9th season, and what the things you heard tonight, interesting stories, where else could you hear these at one time in one place except for what we're doing this evening? I look back on, you look at your program and you see all the past panelists. I mean, we tape every one of these shows, it goes in the archives of the Historical Society, and unfortunately, 6 of our former panelists no longer are with us. Trella Romine, Madge Guthrie, Oliver Hamilton, George Brown, Catherine Lautenslager, and Bob Dowd. All fine people, added much rich history to our community, and how wonderful it has been that we actually had these people up on this dais, were able to impart their stories, and what they said, it'll be recorded, was recorded as for posterity in the Historical Society. So what we do here is Lowell, I thought about this at the very beginning, the Convention Visitors Bureau, we're all members. People said, well, where is the Convention Visitors Bureau? This one reason, well, why not have a program, talk about the rich history of our community, and then people know where to pick their tickets up at the Convention Visitors Bureau. So we've elevated this for 9 years, and all of you here tonight, thank you for all for coming. It was such a wonderful time. So what we do each year before we have this dinner is we have a pre-dinner, okay? And so this year was hosted by Lowell and Linda at their house, and we all sit around and have a few drinks and some good food, and I listen to what everyone has to say. And as a result of what they tell me, I find a few things to add and impart to you this evening. So that's what we're going to do right now. So each have a microphone right there. So I'll start with Randy first, and I'll say, when you saw those postcards, and don't you realize what a rich history this community and why we're so proud of Marion? So one of the first questions I'm going to ask Randy, why were there so many postcards of Marion, Ohio? Why were you so unique with so many postcards? I think, did you tell us there's something like 3,000 postcards possibly were made of Marion?
those of us that collect postcards, excuse me, we know that there are at least 3,000 different views of Marion. If you look at the history of postcards, the real key to preserving a community is some real photo postcards came about. In the early 1900s, Kodak invented a camera that you could take a picture and put it directly onto a postcard back. So you can take a picture of your family, of your dog, of your house, or whatever, and put that directly onto a postcard to mail it. Marion also is known worldwide. I mean, we were Shovel City. We were known around the world for producing power shovels. Marion was a vibrant industrial community. So postcards are popular across the world, but our community happened to have factors available to it, including the shovel. It made it a very popular place to have cards made for. And also Harding Home, Harding Memorial, Etowah. Probably the Harding Home Memorial and Etowah are the ones that there's the most views of, I would say, if you're looking at. Just think of this. We're the home of one of about 47 presidents. How many there are? X number of presidents. That home is here in Marion.
Thank you very much. I'll ask you one more question, then we'll go to our next panelist. One thing maybe people don't know, you were a graduate of Bowling Green and sports medicine, and so talk about, when you were an athletic trainer for a while, talk about the Buckeye Conference going back into the 1970s.
I came to Marion in 1976. Jack Hecker was the football coach and the athletic director of Marion Harding, and he hired me out of college to be the first certified trainer at Harding High School. There was a gentleman named Doc Krager that had worked kind of unofficially as a trainer for several years. But Jack had come to Marion from Army and been a coach in Army. He came into Marion, he wanted to have an actual certified athletic trainer. So when I came here, I didn't know much about Marion, but I was hired as a trainer and we played at the Buckeye Conference. Now, if you remember back in the 1970s, Findlay, Fremont, Sandusky, Lorraine Admiral King, Elyria, those are the schools we played. It was a predominant football conference in the state of Ohio. The only one that might have come close was over in the Massillon, Canton area. I tell stories about some of the events we had and some of the things we did. We played at Elyria, I'll never forget this. I'm from Bowling Green, I'm from Southeastern Ohio originally, went to Bowling Green. I've not been exposed to much inner city type of environment. We go to Elyria, halftime. They turn off every light in the stadium just for leaving the field. Our team walks under the home students' stands to get to our locker room. I learned some new terminology that night that I never heard before. It was an interesting experience, but the Buckeye Conference is a great conference. Many of those schools now have downsized, just like Harding has, but one experience to go through that conference and the teams we played in as part of that experience.
Thank you so very much. Mary Ellen. And I don't think there's words to describe how proud our community is of this lady. I mean, think of both what she has achieved and what honor she's brought to our community, not only in Elgin School Board, to county treasurer, to state treasurer, to the U.S. treasurer. And her name is on more money than any other treasurer ever under the Clinton administration. So Marion, tell us a little bit about, obviously, your early days as a Marion County treasurer, and compare and contrast a little bit, a treasurer, if you can, when you were a treasurer, and some of the things a treasurer, what you might understand will be doing today, compared to what when you did.
Well, I was thinking about this. I worked for a while in the auditor's office, and I also worked in the treasurer's office before I ran for treasurer. And it would take 6 weeks to get the tax bills out. And I'm talking 6 weeks of overtime and everything. And then we computerized, and it was such a blessing, really. And they have gone way ahead of that now. They have so much more computerized than they did then. But I just think that has made such a tremendous difference. Everybody gets their money faster. I mean, the schools get their money faster, and that was what the whole objective was, to try to get the money in as fast as possible. We had all these location points. They could go to the bank and pay their taxes, which was different. And then I did some different things with investing. I did repurchase agreements, which had never been done. I took bids from the banks between the contracts, which had never been done, because you could do that because the Attorney General said that if the interest rate rose significantly, you could get other bids. So we were very aggressive in our investing.
Thank you so very much. One other question. I mean, when you think about, this is all about our community, the history of Marion County, but we would be remiss if we didn't ask a question about the Clintons, because that's the administration you serve. So tell us a little bit about your memories of President Clinton and his wife, Hillary.
Well, they were tremendously intelligent people. I know every time I would have to go and talk to him, I tried to guess what he was going to ask me, because I didn't want to not know what, everything about what I was doing. And I remember the first time they do a medal for every president, and we took it over to him and showed it to him, and he had changed his hairstyle. They had cut his hair more. When you're in the South, you let your hair grow a little bit longer, I think. But when he became president, then his hair was done a little more, a lot shorter. And we redid the medal, and then he wanted a different saying on the medal. And right now, I can't tell you what it was. So we changed that. And yeah, I thought they were wonderful people. I thoroughly enjoyed them. Yeah.
Thank you so very much. Gary. I mean, what can you say? What a tremendous accomplishments, Gary, as we've been going from school teacher to band director to conducting the Messiah to now working for Ohio State in communications to 5 nights on campus to all the things that you've done, the Harding Symposium. I mean, this man has been such an integral part of our community and constantly adds more and more to the enrichment of our community. So Gary, when you look at all those things, I guess a question, we were in our conversation we had at Lowell's house, when you talked about the beginning with the band and the road trips you took, tell us a little bit about those road trips and about the cruise and selling all those candy bars and on and on and on.
Well, Louise, it was the orchestra, wasn't it? We didn't do band. We did
orchestra.
Louise Vance was my great colleague in the string department. Well, as Lowell said, I got a grant from the High Department of Education in '77 to start the Suzuki project, and by the mid-'80s, our program had really flourished. We had great kids, a big orchestra at Harding High School. We decided to expand our horizons a bit, and we began traveling. In all the tours that we took, we had 2 things that we wanted to do. First of all, we always wanted to perform wherever we were going. And the second thing was to do something else that would add to their educational experience. And so we began with a modest trip to Bowling Green State University, and then stayed in Toledo that night and went to the museum the next day. From that, our trips grew. One of the things that we were very proud of is that we never ever left a kid home from a tour because he couldn't afford it. Instead, we made sure that through his own personal account with the Music Parents Association, they could earn everything that they needed to, including spending money, to go on our trips. And so from that first trip, we were invited to play at the symposium at the University of Tennessee. So we went to Knoxville and Gatlinburg and the Smoky Mountains. We went to Atlanta. We were in Baltimore, played a concert in the Inner Harbor there, if you're familiar, and stopped at Gettysburg on the way home. We went to St. Louis and played a concert downtown and saw the Arch and the Great Mississippi River. We took them to Toronto, the first time most of the kids had ever been out of the country. Played in downtown Toronto and saw a lot of great things there. And the last trip that I took with them was a cruise. We actually were the first public school group to ever perform on Carnival Cruise Lines on their ship called the Fantasy. And we actually flew the whole orchestra to Orlando and bussed over to Cape Canaveral and went on a 4-day cruise. We played 2 concerts on the cruise. We went to the Bahamas. We came back and went to the Kennedy Space Center. And that was, of course, probably the most expensive trip we did as well. And one of the things the kids, this is Howie, I'm getting one of the things the kids loved to sell and made a lot of money was Nestle candy bars. And they could sell them for 50 cents and they made a quarter. So they sold these by the boxes. And every candy bar they sold, they made a quarter that went into their fund. And we sold, the year we went on the cruise, we sold 35,000 Nestle candy bars. Every one of them went through my office. I smelled like chocolate for 6 months. Thank heaven my father was retired and loved to crunch numbers, and he was in my office every single morning to bag money, take it to the bank for us, but those are great times.
Those are great memories. So in addition to the 5 nights on campus, which Gary conducts and runs, don't forget it's starting, I think about a week from now here, a week from tonight. And Hardy Symposium, this third year, as we've done, this is the third year this year, but a tremendous, with all the people who were there this year. What a wonderful, and then don't forget on Monday, he also is concerned and manages the harvest, the Taste of the Harvest, so this Monday night to help fund the FM radio station. WSU, so thank you. Also, in addition to all the things that he's done, one of the things I'm sure he's very proud of is the Marion Youth Foundation and all the young people that they raise money for to go to Washington, D.C. to do sports events. And every year they have the golf outing, they bring amazing people to our community, athletes, to talk. So, would you like to talk about a few of those more famous people and maybe some of those members of the Youth Foundation and your speakers?
Yeah, the Marion County Youth Foundation started in '83. I joined it in '90. And we have a golf outing every year called the Charity Celebrity Golf Outing to raise our money for the year. Every cent that we make goes into the hands of deserving kids to help them fund trips and to be able to take expanding experiences that they otherwise might not be able to do. And since we began, we've raised, it's nearly $500,000. Every dime has gone right into the hands of kids, so we're very proud of that. The golf outing that we have every June has been a lot of fun. We've had people in Marion, you may not even realize this, even if you've been around Marion a long time, but we've had celebrities like Willie Mays, Jim Brown, Harmon Killebrew, Earl Weaver, and Brooks Robinson, who were legends of the Baltimore Orioles, Jack Ham from the Pittsburgh Steelers, and of course a myriad of Ohio State folks, John Cooper and Earl Bruce, Bill Hoskett, Jack Tatum. So it's been a lot of fun working with all those folks who have come and donated their time because they know it's a worthy cause to help the kids in Marion County.
And Jimmy Crum with his very famous sport codes.
Jimmy Crum was our MC shortly before he passed away.
Thank you very much. Jeff, what can you ask a man who has conducted so many sports broadcasts for our high schools, whether it's football or basketball, and how lucky he has been to go to all these sporting events for Ohio State football and basketball. He has been to every stadium in the Big Ten. So, question to Jeff. Tell us a little bit, some of your memories of those various stadiums and broadcasts for Ohio State football, places you've been.
Probably my favorite was the Rose Bowl a couple of years ago when Ohio State played out in Pasadena. That's probably my favorite stadium. Got to go out to Berkeley a few weeks ago when they played out there. That's a gorgeous stadium. You stand at the top and you look out over Alcatraz and Golden Gate Bridge. That was a great stadium. Arizona State, when we played the Fiesta Bowl out in Tempe, Arizona. That's another great stadium. I like those. Ohio State, especially in the night game, like last week. Ohio State, of all the Big Ten stadiums I've been to, that's number one, the whole fan experience.
Well, that's certainly well said and certainly appropriate for our audience, that's for sure. So, in addition to his broadcasts of sports, whether it's local or Ohio State, he also does interviews of athletes locally and also athletes on a state level. So I can think of A.J. Hawk and James Laurinaitis and Terrell Pryor and Aaron Kraft. Of those interviews or anyone else you'd like to think about, just some memorable ones that come to your mind?
I don't know if there's any memorable ones. You mentioned Terrell. He was not one of my better interviewers, let's put it that way. He was a little quiet, didn't say a whole lot. But the two you mentioned, first off, James Laurinaitis, A.J. Hawk, I kind of got to know them for a couple of years covering Iowa State, and they were probably my two favorite. They were very, very good interviews.
Thank you. What we'd like to do now, because I could sit and ask questions all evening, and what a wonderful venue to listen to these fine people tell us a history that no other place could you hear this except this evening, right at this time. So I throw the opportunity to anyone in the audience. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to ask any of our panelists a question, and Lou, if you'd like to take a microphone around, if there's anyone who would like to say something, just Lou will bring a microphone over to you. But
If there are no questions, I can introduce some more people.
May I ask,
yes, yes.
Mary Ellen, how many times did you have to sign your signature before you got a good one?
Well, they brought it out to, paper and pen out to me at the U.S. Air Terminal in Washington. And this was before I was sworn in. And I signed my name 20 times. Jeff had this on the air, I think, a while back. And I was really dealing with people bumping me and everything. And I finally went back in a club and signed my name back there. But I signed it 20 times, and I marked number 12 the best, and that's what you have, is number 12.
Thank you. To Randy, obviously you're very much involved in the Historical Society. Tell us a little bit about the Historical Society in lieu of being now at the old post office, how difficult it is, or was, or has been, to be relevant in our community, and what amazing job Gail does to draw people into our Historical Society, and compare and contrast maybe, where it once was, where it is today, and all the great programs that are going on and going forward with you and Gail and all the board.
I can speak on this all evening. I promise I won't, but the Historical Society started in 1969 as a result of some adult education classes that Judge Charlton Myers taught. The first headquarters were in a small house down on South Main Street that was donated to the society. Or I should say, the first place we were in the Quick Print office on Center Street for a while. Then we went down to a small cottage on South Main Street. And eventually we were able to buy the old post office. The post office sold total cost of about $94,000. And Richard Carey, I believe, was president at that time. Is that correct, Richard? Okay. And a lot of the board members, a lot of people in the area put up the money to actually allow us to buy it. Dr. Kelper was the first director, and he oversaw the transformation. The community of Marion, and I mean anything from businesses to industries to the people of Marion, contributed over $600,000 to transform that building into Heritage Hall. It's a beautiful place. We continue to offer programs. I have a list of all the programs we offer throughout the year. And our mission is to preserve the heritage of Marion, but also make sure we share it with people. A lot of our activities are designed to, yes, they be a fundraiser, but they're also designed to share our history. 2 weekends ago, we had an event at Sarnaby Park that was open called Travel Through Time. It was open to the public at no charge. There's a chance for people to come out and see encampments and travel through the woods. So we continue to strive to share our heritage, preserve our heritage. Our collections are pretty phenomenal. The amount of donations we receive, people have things for our archives. Sherry Hall will show you some things we just donated to Harding Home today or this last few weeks. We continue to receive things like that. It's just amazing what people in Marion want to share and entrust us to preserve for the future.
Thank you so much. And if you haven't had a chance, please take an opportunity to look at the displays. These people take time to bring them here. So, and thank you to all those who brought your displays. So to Mary Ellen. All of you, obviously, you made a comment about the 16 men that obviously opposed, and you were the better. I think one that you mentioned was Buck Reinhardt. I think we all know that name, Buck Reinhardt. So would you tell us a little bit about that campaign that you and Buck Reinhardt?
Buck Reinhardt, how many of you remember Buck Reinhardt? Oh, that's amazing. I will mention him sometimes and nobody remembers him, which makes me very happy.
So much said, okay.
Well, I ran against 16 men, but I didn't try to do that, they just got in my way.
I know. Thank you. So Gary, tell us, I mean, now that you obviously was a school teacher at a school board, kind of compare and contrast this school, the school teacher 30 years ago. I know one of the things we all care about, obviously, is the humanities in our schools. And unfortunately, with funding and lack of funding and things today, a lot of that isn't as emphasized as it once was when we were all in high school. So talk a little bit about the importance of music and your experiences as a music teacher with the orchestra.
Well, my experiences were priceless as far as I'm concerned. I had the opportunity to do something that I loved and work with lots and lots of great families like Lowell and Linda, and it was just a wonderful time. I think we all tend to look back and say, oh, those were the good old days. And I try not to do that because I think there are very, very good things going on now. And there are lots and lots of challenges for public education. I think from the perspective of finishing my 8th year on the Marion City Board of Education, I see a couple of really big problems that we struggle with. And one has to do with the basic role of the Board of Education. By high statute, the Board of Education only has 2 jobs to do. That's hire the superintendent and the treasurer and set board policy. I think that was pretty easy 30 years ago, but when the tenure of superintendents was very long, remember Doc Brown, superintendent for 20 years, 1954, 1974. Remember Steve Stewart, Dr. Steve Stewart, came in 74, was here 18 years. That doesn't happen anymore. The average tenure for a superintendent in the state of Ohio today is 3 to 4 years. So boards of education are struggling finding highly qualified leaders and keeping them. That's a challenge for boards of education. Of course, the other is funding. We base still so much of our funding of public education on property tax. And we live in an anti-tax environment, and so that's very difficult. So I think boards of education have had to really become fiscal watchdogs and fiscal managers. I think they've had to get more involved in day-to-day kind of looking at how we stretch our dollars and still maintain a quality core curriculum for our kids.
Thank you. Jeff?
I can't believe nobody out there has any questions.
They probably have questions that maybe they're afraid. Well, okay, Norma, yes.
I was a little disappointed that Joe Iams' name wasn't mentioned at WMRN. He was a big newsman at that.
I see Joe every once in a while. I know his health has not been real good as of late, but yeah, he was an outstanding newscaster for many, many years.
How many here remember Joe Iams? Yes, Joe Iams is not well now, but recently he and I don't think he was in on it, but Marion Stenargi and Scott Spears researched the files out at WMRN, and they found the news broadcast of when Joe Ione announced that I was running for city council. Now that was back in the dark ages.
We still have some audio, which obviously we couldn't use tonight, but the dedication of the YMCA, the one downtown, from many, many years ago. They did the time capsule, and some of the old recordings that we have are just, I mean, it's amazing, some of the history that we have still on recording.
Well, I was real thrilled. Marianne gave me a little disc of the broadcast when Joe announced that I was running for city council, and that was in 1958. But since this is all going down to history, I wanted Joe's name in there.
Very, very good point.
Thank you very much. While the microphone is out in the audience, is there someone else who would like to ask a question? Okay, Jeff, to you. Obviously, interviews in almost, excuse me, is there someone? Oh, yeah. Lou supposed to be in the microphone.
You were on the radio this morning and you talked about a tour.
Yes, you said you were going to take us through the old High Theater. I would love to go there. Other places over Owens?
Yeah, thank you. Next Saturday, October the 12th, we're going to be having what's called Behind Closed Doors, and it's a self-paced tour of Marion. We're going to have 5 different facilities open, buildings open that are not normally open to the general public for people to tour. We're going to be going to the Grand Opera House, which many of you may know is the Hyatt Theater, and the Elks Building. Elks Temple right next door. Mike Perry here is going to be our host at the Hyatt Theater. Mike was a usher there for a while, and so Mike's going to be the host there. We're going to go to Frank Huber's home, which is the old High American Water Company. Frank Huber's Edward Huber's son. Beautiful, beautiful home on the corner of Center and Church, or I'm sorry, Greenwood and Church. We're going to be going through there. We're going to be going to the Harding receiving vault, in the Marion Cemetery, where President Harding and his wife were held for several years. We're going to be going to the Single True Museum, where Frederick Stingle, an optometrist, had his collection, along with Harry True, who had the building. And finally, we're going to be going to the Owens Opera House, down on Owens Road. Owens was a small community. It had a quarry. There were 26 homes. There was a school, a church, a railroad depot, a place they stored cattle, and so forth. And the Owens Opera House, Dennis and Donna Maddox had refurbished it, so we're going to be going there. Tickets are available. I make a plug on that?
I wish you would.
Tickets are available. Tickets are available in advance for $8 or a day of the tour at $10 at Heritage Hall. Everybody who's on the tour also will receive a 30-page booklet. It has the history of each of the places. It has photos in it and so forth. And those will be available for sale afterwards also. But again, it's a fundraiser for the Historical Society, but it's also a chance for people to get into places they don't normally have the opportunity to go into, and as we say, to go behind closed doors.
So this is all done in one day?
Yeah, it's from 1 to 5. It's a self-paced tour. You go to any or all of them. If you want to go to 1 or 2, that's it. That's fine. We have driving directions available at Heritage Hall if you need to know how to get to the different locations. But it's our second year of doing it. It's very, very popular. I also want to mention that we do have a shuttle bus available for senior citizens or people that have disabilities. It has to be reserved in advance. It will go to all 5 locations, but there's about 7 or 8 seats left available on that shuttle bus. One of our local agencies here in Marion is helping us with, so that's available for people that might need that help.
Well, thank you very much for a great intro for a great pitch. Thank you very much. So now back to Jim.
At least one person was listening this morning.
Jeff, so you do obviously your interviews. You also cover things and events. Tell us a little bit about it. Obviously, we all know once upon a time there was a fire in downtown Marion, and you covered that fire. And so tell us a little bit about that fire, and also some other memories of events you've covered similarly in the community.
I think Lowell would probably be better versed in talking about covering that fire that morning. You want to talk about it for a moment? Okay. How many years ago was that?
February 2nd, 2000.
Okay. Yes.
Most people get in the store until 3.
One news story that I remember, and I had not been here very long, was the hostage situation down at McBride. I forget was it and I remember I did not per se get down there, but I know we had our news guys out there covered that from beginning to end. That, as far as having a news story, that might have been as big a news story as I can recall.
Okay, I'll ask one more time. Are there any questions from the audience What we do in the wrap-up of our evening, I ask each of our panelists one last question, and I've kind of prompted them a little bit. So when I ask, I say, okay, so tell us one thing, each of our panelists, one thing that our audience doesn't know that's memorable and also be positive, and that you'd like to tell us this evening for historical purposes. So I'll start with, all right, Jeff.
No, I'd start with Randy because I need a minute to think about it.
So
Do now.
So Randy, so one memorable, something that you'd like to impart this evening that no one else or our audience knows, that you know, that you would like to share with us.
The key is, and I'd like to share with you, that may be the key thing. There's lots of things I know, but I don't.
A private conversation later,
at the moment, but I think maybe what I know, that some of you may know, but probably not many of you. Marion's heritage is so rich. How many of you know that we have 10 museums in the city of Marion? We have 10 different museums, and these are ones that are just public museums. These aren't the ones that include like Michael Linda Perry's collection of music boxes. I'm not even including those in music memorabilia. We have the Marion County Historical Society, Wyandotte Popcorn Museum, Harding Memorial, Huber Museum, Buckeye Telephone Museum. If you've never been there, what a hidden gem that is. The Buckeye Telephone Museum out on Bell Fountain Avenue. Union Station, Stengel True Home, Owens Opera House, Women's Federation Home. I may have missed some. Those are just the ones I can think of right off the top of our head. 65,000 people, 10 museums. We have over 50 books that have been written just about Marion or places in Marion. Gary talked about the songs, the history of Marion. There were over 20 songs written about President Harding when he was running for his campaign. He was running for office. There were at least 2 songs written about the city of Marion. We had the preservation groups in Marion, the Historical Society, Huber Memorial, Harding Home. And it's just such a rich heritage that many of you may know individual parts of that, but if you stop and think about what this community has, yeah, sometimes we're downtrodden, but really how proud we should be of the heritage we have. And just like this organization, this event tonight, sharing this for posterity, taping it, sharing it, putting it out so people 50, 100 years from now can hear about this. What an opportunity. And thank you to you folks and the organization for doing this. But it's just quite an evening. I'm so proud of our heritage of Marion.
And also, very well said. Thank you so very much. And all this support comes from everyone in this audience and your friends and your cousins. And when you bring your relatives to our community and all these places you can take them, what is there to do in Marion? Come on. There's lots and lots to do in Marion. And like Will said, our community is getting much better all the time. We're so proud of our community. So, Mary Ellen, the question to you, please.
Well, there is a Marion Withrow Museum, too. I really love to have people come and visit. It's at Primrose, where I happen to live as well. But it's a separate room in the big building. And I can take groups, and I can take whatever. And, you know, people want to come through. If it's just 3 or 4 is fine. But we do, you have to call and make an appointment. But I love to have people come and look at my things, so come.
Thank you so very much. And to you, Gary.
Well, Howie, I don't remember you asking us that question. But
I did look, because you were busy last night. I left a message on your phone for that, so it's, I'm sorry. I didn't get a chance to one-on-one with you, but
no, that's all right.
Here we are.
I don't have anything. I just wanted to point out that from if you remember anything about what I talked about this evening, the remarkable story of the Marion Lecture Recital Club, starting their 93rd consecutive season this October, this month, and the Marion Civic Chorus. There's no civic chorus in the state of Ohio, in the research that I've done, that has been together and performed. This will be our 73rd consecutive performance of Messiah. That's something that not just us who participate, but all of this community should be very proud of.
Thank you so very much. And to you, please, Jeff.
Who knows where radio is going to be 10 or 20 years from now? I mentioned, we had, just a few years ago, we had 35 employees, we're down to 9. So much of the radio stations now across the country are automated. There's not a lot of local programming left. Our 2 FM stations were live 4 hours a day out of 24 hours. On the AM, we're basically live only 6 to noon. So 10, 20 years from now, radio is going to be completely different. I hope we can keep WMRN as local for as long as we can. And you know, one of our strengths is local programming, local news. If you have an event, you have an organization that's having a program, let us know about it. Because we can't keep track of everything. So no matter how small or how large of an event it is, let us know and we'll do our best to promote it for you.
Thank you. And that really goes without saying how important it is to support our community, whether it's the radio station or newspaper or all the other fine organizations in our community. What we'd like to ask before we all leave is, we'd like to see a show of hands, if you would please, of who's here for the first time this evening. Could you raise your hands for the first time? Thank you. All right, now this is our 9th year. Would those who have been here all 9 years, will you raise your hand? Wow. It's a testament to this organization, to the Convention and Visitors Bureau. What a wonderful evening. We want to thank you all for coming, and show our panelists. Wasn't this a wonderful panel? We're so lucky to share with us this evening. And to everyone here, please come back next year, make it 10, and thank you all for coming. Drive safely home. Thank you. Good evening.